Today's headline is A Skater Chased by Wolves. It says, a thrilling incident in American country life is vividly sketched in Evenings at Donaldson's Manor. In the winter of 1844, the realtor sallied forth one evening to skate on the Kennebec in Maine by moonlight, and having ascended that river nearly 2 miles, turned into a little stream to explore its course. Fir and hemlock of a century's growth, he says, met overhead and formed an archway radiant with frostwork. All was dark within, but I was young and fearless, and as I peered into an unbroken forest that reared itself on the borders of the stream, I laughed with very joyousness. My wild hurrah rang through the silent woods, and I stood listening to the echo that reverberated again and again until all was hushed. Suddenly, a sound arose. It seemed to me to come from beneath the ice. It sounded low and tremulous at first, until it ended in a low, wild yell. I was appalled. Never before had such a noise met my ears. I thought it more than mortal, so fierce, and amidst such an unbroken solitude, it seemed as though from the tread of some brute animal, and the blood rushed back to my forehead with a bound that made my skin burn. And I felt relieved that I had to contend with things earthly and not spiritual. My energies returned, and I looked around me for some means of escape. As I turned my head to the shore, I could see 2 dark objects dashing through the underbrush at a pace nearly double in speed to my own. By this rapidity and the short yells they occasionally gave, I knew at once that these were the much-dreaded gray wolf. I had never met with these animals, but from the description given of them, I had very little pleasure in making their acquaintance. Their untamable fierceness and the untiring strength which seem a part of their nature rendered them objects of dread to every benighted traveler. There was no time for thought, so I bent my head and dashed madly forward. Nature turned me towards home. The light flakes of snow spun from the iron of my skates, and I was some distance from my pursuers, whence their fierce howl told me I was still their fugitive. I did not look back. I did not feel afraid or sorry, or even glad. One thought of home, and the bright faces awaiting my return, of their tears if they should never see me again, and then every energy of body and mind was exerted for escape. I was perfectly at home on the ice. Many were the days that I had spent on my good skates, never thinking that at one time they would be my only means of safety. Every half minute, an alternate yelp from my ferocious followers told me too certain that they were in close pursuit. Nearer and nearer they came. I heard their feet pattering on the ice nearer still, until I could feel their breath and hear their snuffling scent. Every nerve and muscle in my frame was stretched to the utmost tension. The trees along the shore seemed to dance in the uncertain light, and my brain turned with my own breathless speed. Yet still they seemed to hiss forth their breath with a sound truly horrible, when an involuntary motion on my part turned me out of my course. The wolves close behind, unable to stop, and as unable to turn on the smooth ice, slipped and fell, still going on far ahead. Their tongues were lolling out, their white tusks glaring from their bloody mouths, their dark shaggy breasts were flecked with foam, and as they passed me, their eyes glared, and they howled with fury. The thought flashed on my mind that by this means I could avoid them, by turning aside whenever they came too near, for they, by the formation of their feet, are unable to run on the ice except in a straight line. At one time, by delaying my turning too long, my sanguinary antagonists came so near that they threw the white foam over my dress, and as they sprang to seize me, and their teeth clashed together like the spring of a foxtrot. Had my skates failed for one instant, had I tripped on a stick, or caught my foot in a fissure in the ice, the story I am now telling would never have been told. I thought all the chances over. I knew where they would take hold of me if I fell. I thought how long it would be before I died, and then there would be a search for the body that would already have its tomb. For oh, how fast man's mind traces out all the dread colors of death's picture. Only those who have been so near the grim original can tell. But I soon came opposite the house, and my hounds, I knew their deep voices, roused by the noise, bayed furiously from their kennels. I heard their chains rattle, how I wished they would break them, and then I should have protectors that would be peers of the fiercest denizens of the forest. The wolves, taking the hint conveyed by the dogs, stopped in their mad career, and after a moment's consideration, turned and fled. I watched them until their dusky forms disappeared over a neighboring hill. Then, taking on my skates, wended my way to the house, with feelings which may be better imagined than described. But even yet, I never see a broad sheet of ice in the moonshine, without thinking of that snuffling breath, and those fearful things that followed me so closely down the frozen Kennebec. This story came from the great state of Georgia, being reported in the Southern Recorder of May 27, 1851. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.